All right, so I'll start off by giving you the answer. It's managing expectations. So at the School of Cards, we built a course last year called the Poker Mental Edge. And essentially, it's a course that's all focused on performance. I like to consider poker to be divided into two categories: mechanical understanding and performance. So mechanical understanding is all the things that are required to have a profitable thought process at the table, and performance is the ability to execute that process. So for example, if you're sitting at the table and you're really frustrated and angry about a previous hand, you may have the mechanical understanding to know that you should fold when a player 3-bets you, but because that mechanical understanding is like cut off by your frustration, your performance fails. And it's all about closing the gap. You should always be trying to close the gap between your understanding and your application. And one of the cool things about this course is that when users go through it, they're going through a process of inquiry. So they're looking at the areas of their game, looking where they need to improve, and they're entering it into our platform, and the data gets kicked back to us, partially because I can see and give people feedback, but also because it's a process. You need to write it down. And what this does is it gives us literally thousands of lines of data about people's experience when it comes to performance in poker. And it's fascinating. If you read all this, pretty much every I'd say like 95% of it is all based on managing expectations. So I just want to explain that because it's absolutely essential. And I know a lot of this mental game stuff in poker, it's said so often in a way that it should be easy to apply, right? So it's like, you need to be focused on the outcome. You need to be focused on the process, forget about the outcome. Or, you're going to experience variance. You're going to experience a downswing. You want to be playing with players that play poorly. And what tends to happen is when you hear this information and you're in the thick of it and you're like really frustrated or you're feeling really angry, unless you're like a very seasoned professional who has been through all these ups and downs, it's not as easy as like reading a quote on Instagram and being like, you know what? I'm stuck 5K, but you're right. Poker is a game where you got to focus on the process and you got to forget about it. No, in practical application, it takes a lot of real work to look at the reasons on why you're not performing the way that you should be. It's not just waking up in the morning and meditating. It's a lot of work. And most of the problems in mental game and anything related to tilt and frustration and performance issues, a lot of it boils down to not managing your own expectations about what is possible in this game. So a simple example is this: you get frustrated and angry and you're in a downswing. Most players conceptually understand the process of a downswing. Also, first of all, when I say the word downswing, you lose 3 or 4 buy-ins. You lose maybe even 8 or 9 buy-ins. You're not in a downswing. Most players really underestimate what a downswing even is. But let's just say mentally you're in it. What's wrong is you're not managing the expectation that you can actually lose in poker. So many poker players, even some of you who might be really experienced in watching this, myself, when I go out there and start playing again next week, you'll see a video about this coming up soon. I'm not going to want to lose the first couple of sessions I play. Everybody wants to go out there. Everybody wants to have a winning session, but we need to have it in the back of our mind that we need to manage our expectations, and we need to acknowledge that we can potentially lose. So like another example is like someone calls your bet in a river spot and they shouldn't have it. It was an easy fold. Well, first should is like the worst word in poker. Players could do whatever the hell they want. It's not up to you what they do. But you have to understand that poker is a game where players could do what the hell they want to do. They don't need to act in accordance with the current trends of 3-bet ranges in 2020 at live 1-2 and 2-5. That's just not how that works. And there's a lot of things to work on when it comes to mental game. There's a lot of different components and different processes to focus on. But at the core, you need to manage your expectations with this game. You can't go in and crush every session and make tons of money. You can't have sessions where you're going to triple up and double up over and over again. And I know it's been said over and over and over again in content and material everywhere. But it's dangerous now because what's happening is this information is so out there that everybody knows it. So I'll tell people that are frustrated, like, listen, man, you got to manage your expectations. They'll say, I know. I've been through this. Yeah, but you're not really living it. And that's the big distinction there. It's like sometimes for some people, it actually requires you to say to yourself, like, yes, I'm going to play my best in this session, but I am 100% aware that I could easily lose while making the best decisions over and over again. And once you do manage your expectations, and once you see that there's an embedded flow and there's an variance in poker and there's all these beautiful things that occur, the game doesn't have such a hold on you, doesn't have such a strangle on you. And I just wanted to make a video about that because I was analyzing all these statements and I was like, wow, like managing expectations really is at the core. And there's so many different kinds of examples of this, but just always remember, poker is a game where you're trying to make the best decision you possibly can based on the information that you have. Sometimes it will be incredibly frustrating because the best decision won't work. Sometimes poor players will catch up and get there. Sometimes you'll go through downswings. Sometimes you'll, be thinking you're playing the best poker and not be playing your best poker. And that's what makes the game so hard. That's why the game is so beautiful. It's not just about learning how to make the right decision. It's learning how to deal with making the right decision, not having a positive outcome, and still showing up and playing your best game. And I think this is something that's been said so much, but it's lost in a lot of people's mentalities. And not to mention, guys, most people just don't have a mechanical understanding to be profitable. So a lot of players, you have mechanics, you have performance. A lot of players think that mechanically they're good enough to beat the games that they're in. But the reality is, even if they are performing at the highest level, they're playing their A game, they're still making so many decisions that they're a break-even or losing player. And that is a reality for like 95% of live players still. 1, 2, and 2, 5, maybe 5, 10 higher, a little bit different. But for the lower stakes games, most players are just going to be losing because of that gap. So yeah. Hope that was helpful. Any questions about anything related to mental game, please post below. If you want to check out our course, Poker Mental Edge, I think it's incredible. Check out the link below.